Hello everyone, my name is Bradley Sinopoli, and I would like to welcome you to the recording of the final match of the Grand Prix trial for San Jose, hosted by the wonderful people at Jackson Queen. I once again have sped up the footage to 2 times its normal speed in an attempt to quell the super long runtime. On the left, we have Fred Gagnon playing Merfolk versus his opponent on the right of your screen, Calvin Heintz playing Kiki-Chord. Strap yourselves in for some great games of Magic, because this game is for all the marbles. Alright. Okay, so once again, Fred is on the left playing Merfolk, and Calvin on the right is playing Kiki-Chord. Looks like Fred starts off with a Curse Catcher and passes. Calvin Raging Ravine pass back. Fred plays a Lord of Atlantis, swings for 2 with the Curse Catcher. Calvin's deciding crack a fetch. Looks like an Arid Mesa from this point. And a Wall of Roots. Very nice. Wall of Roots being a 0/5. Put a 1/1 -1/-1 counter on it. You can add 1 green mana to your pool. Pretty sure you can only do that once a turn though. Fred tapping 2 for a Master of the Pearl Trident. Another Lord. So making the Lord of Atlantis a 3/3 and making the Curse Catcher a 3/3. Gavany Township. Pia and Kieran Nalar. Okay, so Mom and Dad to get 2 Thopters. Those are going to stave off the Merfolk for a bit. As they do have Island Walk, but Calvin does not have any island. Oh, that is a Master of Waves. Devotion appears to be 6. So 6/2/1 elementals for Fred. That's pretty scary if you're playing Calvin here. Fred just taking a look at Pia and Kieran. Path to Exile targeting Master of Waves. Yep, nothing you can do about that. The tokens being 1/0s, so once Master of Waves leaves the battlefield, then those tokens die. That was a big play. Big play. Sure, Merfolk gets the land, but once you've already got 4, you don't really need it anymore. Premier removal spell, though. Gone out of Calvin's hand. Path to Exile. Calvin playing purely defensively at this point. It looks like a Spreading Seas on the Raging Ravine. Turning that red-green land creature into an island. Netting a card for Fred. Ooh. Okay. So what Calvin tried to do was tap out for a Chord of Calling, but Fred sacrificed the Curse Catcher to counter it unless he paid 1, and Calvin did not have the mana for that. Fred getting it for 6 and playing a Silvergill Adept, revealing a Merfolk from his hand and drawing a card. If you're Calvin right now, you should be scared. As his Raging Ravine is now an island, all of Fred's Merfolk have Island Walk. They become unblockable. That's a scary spot. Looks like another Master of the Pearl Trident. Pumping all the Merfolk up again. Looks like all of them have 4 toughness? Or 4 power, rather? Yeah, and the Silvergill has 5 power. Don't know what Calvin's planning here. Probably another Chord of Calling. Maybe flashing in a Restoration Angel. Yeah, For those of you watching at home, the deck list will be in the description, so if you want to pull them up, you can uh, hypothesize what the people will be playing and what each player has in their hand. Ooh, Kasali Pride Mage. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Ooh, I got it right. Holla. So what he can do with the Pride Mage is sacrifice it to destroy an artifact or enchantment. So by blowing up the Spreading Seas, he can now block the creatures that have Island Walk. Looks like he's taking 4 and throwing those stoppers under the bus. Fred's having 2 more. For another Silvergale Adept. Oh boy. Calvin, my boy. You need to pull something out here, buddy. A lot of those merfolk now getting... At least the lords themselves are getting +2/+2 from other lords. He has 3 lords out right now. 1 Lord of Atlantis and 2 Master of the Pearl Trident. And 2 Silvergale Adept. Staring down a Wall of Roots with 3 -1/-1 counters on it, and a Pia and Kira Nalar. Chandra's famous mom and dad. Now only the mother remains on the plane of Kaladesh. And that's a scoop. Alright, so Fred takes game 1. Being on the play as Merfolk is usually pretty good. Usually lets you get in for those early points of damage, and then when it comes to the late game, it's all just kind of, get out of Spreading Seas, swing, get through the blockers, or just kind of fade out your opponent's threats. What could each player be bringing in here? When it comes to Fred's game plan, he probably wants to bring in those echoing truths. 2 mana instant, return target non-land permanent and all of the permanents with the same name as that permanent to their owner's hand. So that stops the infinite restoration angel combo that Kiki pulls out. Maybe the spell skites, and probably Unified Will, depending on whether or not Fred feels confident and having more creatures than his opponent. Unified Will is a 2 mana counterspell. 2 mana counterspell. Counter target spell if you control more creatures than that spell's controller. So if you can flood out Merfolk in time before Kiki-Chord can get all its mana dorks out, then you can counter a spell. But I definitely foresee bringing in the spell skites and the echoing truths, and maybe a dismember or 2. Hitting Restoration Angel when it hits board is pretty good. Kiki-Chord, maybe Eidolon of Rhetoric. It's a 3 mana 1/4 from the Theros block. Players can only cast 1 spell each turn. That might be pretty good to kind of slow down the crazy madness. Maybe the lightning helixes. I can see those coming in. Maybe in the ghostly prisms. Our boy Calvin here is running 2 in his sideboard. 3 mana enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless the controller pays 2 for each creature he or she controls that is attacking. So putting up your own little pillow fort might be what Calvin wants to do here against the army of fish. Calvin's chucking that hand back. Not a fan of that 7. We will definitely see if he can find a better 6. Looks like Fred is going to keep. Yep, Calvin's keeping and ships it to the bottom. Starts with a stomping ground and passes. Ooh, Fred land pass. That's normally not a good sign. There's our friend Wall of Roots again. The trusty big-butted mana dork. 0/5. Looks like a Razor Verge Thicket. Putting Spreading Seas onto the Stomping Ground. Okay. That's not a Razor Verge Thicket. Firelit Thicket. It's the other thicket. What is that? Reclamation Sage coming in from the sideboard. That must feel good. Reclamation Sage wrecking the spreading seas. Not bad, not bad. Now if you're Fred right now, you're not in a good spot. Turn 3, no Merfolk. Yeesh. Well, he has the Cavern, but I don't think he's worried about counter spells coming from the Kiki-Chord deck. Excuse me. 3 for Regery? And it gets Path. Wow. Calvin having none of the Merfolk this game. There's no Merfolk for 3 turns. Okay, sees 1, Path it. Feels good. Pretty sure that was a Miro Regery. 3 mana Merfolk Lord. With a neat little Merfolk cast trigger that lets you tap or untap target permanent. Looks like Calvin's stuck on 3 lands, but not really an issue when you've got Wall of Roots out. Little playful chatter going on from the players. 2 mana for a Master of the Pearl Trident. Looks like Chord of Calling gets Spell Pierced. Not bad. Alright. The Fred's like, if I can't have Merfolk, you can't have your combo. There's a Birds of Paradise right there. Showing it to the camera. Very nice. Master of the Pearl Trident will indeed pump up the Mutavault, as it is all creature types, so it is a Merfolk. Looks like a Master of Waves. Coming in with 3 2/1 elementals. Looks like Fred's End Step, Calvin flashing in Restoration Angel, bouncing the Wall of Roots. Calvin's Chording for 5. That's Kiki-Chord. Making a large number of... Oh my goodness. Remember when you talked about Echoing Truths being clutch this game? That was Echoing Truth bouncing 12,000 Restoration Angels back to Calvin's hand. Oh my. But unless Fred can deal with that Kiki-Chord Mirror Breaker now, Restoration Angels is going to come back down next turn and do the exact same thing. I believe Fred is calculating how much damage he can do if he taps out, because he really doesn't have many options at this point. Kiki-Chord is just a 2/2, so if he blocks anything, it dies. It trades with an elemental token, but it will die if it blocks a Merfolk. Looks like we have an animated Mutavault coming up. Now a 4/4, as it is a Merfolk, as well as an elemental. So Master Waves pumps it up too. Little fun fact for you. Bonus synergies here. Looks like a swing for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Looks like Kiki-Chord was activated, targeting Reclamation Sage. So in comes a copy of Reclamation Sage to block Master of Waves, as Master of Waves is protection from red, so it cannot be blocked by Kiki-Chord. Master of Waves dies, and so do all of the tokens. Looks like we're just going to see a Restoration Angel being cast here, blinking Wall of Roots, and then Kiki-Chord activation targeting Restoration Angel. Harbinger of Tides being flashed in to tap down. So there's just a ruling question on it. Tapping down Kiki-Chord, but... Or no, being bounced. Okay. Let me just look up Harbinger of the Tides. At his battlefield, you may return target tapped creature to its own, an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So that is a bounce spell. Oh, it looks like a lightning bolt on the Rager or on Master of the Pearl Trident there. And I think Fred is staving off the inevitable here. I mean, 2 cards in his hand, spreading seas to draw a card. Hopefully a counter spell or something, because the second Kiki-Chord hits board, Kiki's just gonna make a bunch of copies. Looks like an Aether Vial for Fred. 1 card in hand. 1 card in hand for Mr. Gagnon. Yep. There's Kiki. Ah. Spell Pierce. Nothing but a Spell Pierce, which only counters non-creature spells. So Kiki slinks his way through. Calvin makes 12,000 Restoration Angels and swings in for the win. For those of you that don't know, Kiki-Chord 5 mana 2/2 with haste, activated ability of tap, and put a token of a target creature onto the battlefield you control. And that token gains haste until end of turn, and then at the end of your turn you have to sacrifice it. Now how that works with Restoration Angel is Restoration Angel is a 4 mana 3/4 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, bounce target creature you control. So exile target creature and then return to the battlefield. So how that interacts with Kiki-Chord Mirror Breaker is you activate Kiki-Chord, making a copy of a Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel enters, bounces your Kiki-Chord, comes back in untapped. You can activate it again because Kiki-Chord has haste, and you can make a bunch of Restoration Angels. And as all of the tokens have haste, you can just swing for the hills. So in that case, Calvin's like, I'd like to make 12,000 Restoration Angels, and Fred said okay, and then Calvin proceeded to swing for 36,000 points of damage, which is a lot. I mean, I don't know if there's some decks that can crack that much health, but yeah, alright. Both players shipping their hand back. Calvin revealing a mitt of 7 lands. That's not something you particularly want when you have a lot of mana dorks in your deck. Guess I'll take this minute to talk about Jax on Queen. Jax on Queen is a local game shop in Elmvale, Ontario. They do board games, card games, hero clicks, Dice Masters, more importantly, comic books. Both players resolving their mulligans and their scries here. Looks like both are staying on top. Fred plays an island. Calvin fetches for a forest and then plays a birds. Birds of Paradise. We have a 2-drop. Silvergill Adept revealing Master of the Pearl Trident to draw a card. There's Waller Roots. The big booty blocker. Fortunately, no Island Walk here. What is that? Believe that is a Kira. Great Glass Spinner. We saw that in the previous game against Grixis Delver. The glare's killing me here, but I'm pretty sure that's Kira. Yeah. I'm going to say yeah. That looks like Kira. And it looks like Silvergill Adept got pathed in response to Kira, so The Silver Guild did not have pseudo hexproof. Calvin draws for turn. Plays Gavany Township, passes back. Fred drops his land. Now, what are you going to do with 5 mana? Swinging in the air for 2. Not going to bother blocking. Playing Master of the Pearl Trident, retaining priority, Lord of Atlantis. Looks like this is a Chord of Calling out of Calvin here. For 3. Eternal Witness. Okay, so if you know anything about Kiki-Chord, and I learned this from watching this game, is once they Kiki-Chord Eternal Witness, it's basically a combo to Kiki-Jiki. Because even if you don't hit another land, you can convoke the creature you just got off of Chord of Calling to go 1 mana up. So by grabbing Eternal Witness, he can grab back Chord of Calling from his graveyard. Now, unless Fred has a counterspell, he basically just loses unless he can race in 2 turns. Because what Calvin's going to do is he's going to cast Chord of Calling again. Oh, that's a Master of Waves. That is a big devotion trigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tokens. That's a lot of tokens. Yep. So this is for 6. No. This is for 4. This is for 4. Grabbing a Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel triggers, you just bounce Eternal Witness, and then Eternal Witness enters, and you just grab Chord of Calling again. And then next turn, you can just grab Kiki-Jiki. It's... Once that E-Witness hits, it's just a ramp game. It's like, if you can kill me in 3 turns, cool. If not, it's pretty much over. Like we saw just now, Calvin hit his 4th land, but it really doesn't need to be needed, as Wall of Roots can tap for Convoke and also put a -1/-1 counter on itself to add another mana. So it effectively counts as 2. Excuse me. Wonder if Fred has anything in his hand. Looks like he's got 1 card in hand, 1 or 2 cards in hand, to have to deal with the incoming Kiki-Jiki. So, Chord of Calling for 5, X equals 5. Grabbing a 5-drop from the deck. It's going to be... Or no, wait, what? Oh, he's playing around... He's playing around a counterspell by playing X equals 4 to get another Restoration Angel. And bouncing his Eternal Witness. And then pathing the Master of Waves to get rid of everything. Getting rid of all the tokens. Seems like a pretty important play here. He cast 2 paths. First path was countered by Kira. Second path succeeded in removing the Master of Waves from the board. Thus effectively removing 14 points of damage from the 7/2/1 elemental tokens. Fred with 2 cards in hand, Calvin with 3. Believe we are going to get a Chord of Calling for 5. Looking for Kiki-Jiki. There it is. Fred reveals 2 lands, extends the hand. Kiki-Chord. Beating out Merfolk. Congratulations to Calvin for taking first place. 2 buys at Grand Prix trial, or 2 buys at Grand Prix San Jose. And $125 in Jacks on Queen in-store credit. Fantastic game, gentlemen. Once again, deck lists will be posted in the description below. See you next time. Stay salty, my friends.